Hey guys, it's Mrs. Chefcheck here. Today we're going to be solving equations that have variables on both sides of our equal sign. This page is mostly for reference, so if you don't have the steps recorded to solve an equation anywhere in your notes, I would definitely screenshot this and save it or copy it into your notes. It's very detailed and you won't use every step every time, but this is the general order by which we'll follow to solve our equations going forward. And then over here we have this reminder that when we're solving equations, we need to reverse the order of operations, meaning we undo our addition and subtraction before we undo any multiplication or division and so on. Since you've got some experience solving equations already, today I'm going to focus more on showing the steps, and I'm going to go a little quicker than normal, but please stop and rewind as needed to make sense of what I'm doing here. Okay, on this first equation, I'm always going to start by drawing that line down the middle, and now I'm looking to see if there are any terms that can be combined on either side of the equal sign. Well, over here I have a 3x and I have a plus 3x, and so I know that makes 6x. And then I'm going to bring down the rest of that equation, bring down my equal sign, and there's nothing on the right side that can be combined, so I'm just rewriting that step. Okay, next I need to get all my x's on one side of the equation. Right now I've got 6x over here and I've got 4x over here. And remember, the suggestion is to get rid of the smaller x's first, or the one that we have fewer of. So since 4 is smaller than 6, that's my suggestion, is I'm going to remove 4x from the right side, and then I have to also do that on the left. Now I could have subtracted 6x first, right? I could take off 6x and then take off 6x, but if I did that, I'm going to end with a negative 2x on the right, and while that's certainly doable, it sometimes adds another level of confusion to people, so I'm trying to keep this a little easier. Okay, so back at it. 6x minus 4x is 2x. Bring down your minus 1, and then on the right-hand side, we just have 9. All right, we almost have our variable isolated. Next thing we have to do is undo this subtraction. So instead of subtract 1, we're going to add 1 to cancel that out. Make sure we show that on the right side as well. And now I have 2x equals 10. And my last step here is to divide by however many x's I have. So instead of 2x, I just want 1x. So to do that, I have to divide by 2 to cancel that out. And again, what happens on one side has to happen on the other. And that leaves us with x equals 5. And then we could go back in to check our solution. I'm going to just kind of shrink it a little here. I'm going to do that pretty quickly. So I have 3 times 5 plus 3 times 5 minus 1. I'm going to run out of space. Equals 4 times 5 plus 9. And I know some people really don't like taking the time to check their solution, but I would recommend doing this every time because you'll know if you're right or not right off the bat. So what I'm doing here is checking the left to see if it equals the right side. So I have 3 times 5, that's 15, plus 3 times 5, that's 15, minus 1. And this is 30 minus 1, which gives me 29. Over on the right side, I have 4 times 5 because I multiply first, and I get 20. 20 plus 9 gives me 29. My answer checks. I know that I was right when I said x equals 5. Let's take a look at another one. We have x's on both sides of our equation, so I am going to look first at how can I get them all on one side. So I've got two options again. I could subtract 6x from both sides, or I could add x to both sides. Which one would be a better option, do you think? I think if I add x to both sides, it's going to leave me with a positive coefficient, and that's just easier for my brain to work with. So 6x plus x becomes 7x. And my new equation is 7x plus 12 equals negative 2. Make sure we bring that negative down with the 2 or we won't get to the correct answer. Now we need to eliminate that 12 because, again, we have x times 7 plus 12, and when we're solving equations, we use the reverse order of operations, meaning we have to undo that addition before we undo that multiplication. And I subtract 12 from both sides, and I'm left with 7x equals, now be careful with your integer rules here, we have -2 minus 12. And -2 minus 12 is the same as -2 plus -12, and so we get -14. And final step, to get x by itself, we need to undo that multiply by 7, and we divide by 7 to get that x alone. So x equals -14 divided by 7, x equals -2. And one more time, I'm going to check that solution. I have 6 times, instead of x, I put -2 plus 12 equals negative x, which is the opposite of x, so a -2 minus 2. And when I simplify this, I get -12 plus 12, and that's going to give me 0. And over on this side, I have the opposite of -2, or a -2, which is a +2. And 2 minus 2 also equals 0. My answer checks. So I know that my answer of x equals -2 is correct. All right, I'm going to go through one more with you guys. Now, this one doesn't have x's on both sides, but this is one that sometimes confuses people because it looks a little different than some we've been working with. So when I'm looking at this problem, I see that I have x divided by 7 plus 4 equals 12. I'm going to draw my division, or my line down the center just to keep it separate. And I've got to look at this and see which operations are being done to my x. So I'm dividing by 7 and I'm adding 4. And order of operations tells us, normally going forward, simplifying an expression, we would divide and then add. So when we solve our equation, we have to reverse that. We have to get rid of that plus 4 first, and to do that, we subtract 4. And that is going to move it over to the other side of our equation. And so now what I have that I'm working with is x divided by 7 equals 8. Okay, and now, just like everything else, I have to use the inverse operation to get that x alone. So since I'm dividing by 7, the inverse is to multiply it by 7. If I do it to the left, I have to do it to the right. 7x divided by 7 leaves me with just an x, which is why we did that. And then 8 times 7 is 56. And to check my answer, I'm going to plug 56 back in. 56 divided by 7 plus 4, let's see if that equals 12. 56 divided by 7 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. And what do you know? 12 equals 12. Our answer checks out. X equals 56. All right, now it's your turn to try a couple. I'm going to have you pause the video and try these in your notebook or in Notability, and see how you're showing your work and what you get for your final answer. And then push play to come back and see how you did. All right, did you do it yourself? Did you really do it yourself? Are you feeling guilty if you didn't do it yourself? Okay, let's take a look. On letter A, we're going to go in, and I'm just going to do this one kind of quickly here. So we have 4x plus 2 equals x plus 5. If I take an x off both sides, wow, that is sloppy. I have 3x plus 2 equals 5. And now I subtract 2 from each side. I have 3x equals 3. Divide both sides by 3 to get x equals 1. I'm not going to check it right now. I'm trusting you guys just did that, or we'll just assume we're right. On the next side, I have a different equation here. I am going to start by adding 3x to both sides. That isn't the only thing I could have done, but that's where I like to start, because -3 or -3 is smaller than 2. And so by eliminating that, I'm going to leave myself with some positive x's over here. So we have 5x minus 6, and over here we still just have 4. Now I'm going to add 6 to both sides of this to get my x alone, almost alone over here. We have 5x and 10. And final step, divide both sides by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and x equals 2. If you want to keep watching, totally optional. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to show you another way that people sometimes do this one. So if you didn't do it in that same order, or you ended with an answer that was different, I would like you to watch this piece of it. So another way we could have done this, and my guess is maybe some of you did, subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, that'll get the x off of the right-hand side. Just be careful with what you bring down here. We have 4, and then we have a negative 3x minus 2x, or negative 3x plus negative 2x. And that's going to give me a negative 5x. And then on the right-hand side, I need to bring down a negative 6. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and again, bring down that negative with your 5x. So it's negative 5x equals negative 6 minus 4, or negative 6 plus negative 4, gives me a negative 10. And at this final step, you have to divide by negative 5, not just 5, because you want to take the negative away with it. And I'm left with x equals a positive 2. So there is another way to get there, but you can see that on this way, I didn't have to deal with any negatives at all. And on the right side, I had to deal with almost all negatives. So personal preference, but that might show you why I like to get rid of the smaller x first.